Just I mean, there was a lot there. Thank you very, very much. The very last sentence you said was, we need to rediscover the politics of finance. Can you expand on that? If that's what you talked about, where in it was that? If it was missing, what does that last sentence mean?
So what it means is, I don't mean politics of finance as this sort of particular financial group lobbying particular politicians. We have plenty of that. We don't need to rediscover any of it. What I mean is that finance is not a politically or normatively neutral area of activity. And in recent decades, particularly since the 1980s, sort of part of that broader shift in how we think about the relationship between the government and the economy, perhaps, there's been a tendency that's become very strong to think of the financial markets as sort of self-sufficient and kind of, self-regulating, self-equilibrating areas where, sort of savvy money kind of gets put into play to benefit the economy and everybody else and whatnot. And it's sort of, none of that is sort of directly political. Nobody needs to come in and start asking questions about why. Why do we need a particular financial market or particular financial product? Why is the financial market behaving this way or that way? Because once somebody starts asking these questions, typically that would be policymakers, lawmakers, or regulators, right? Then the retort was that, well, they're bringing in this external, completely exogenous, and therefore illegitimate logic into the operation of essentially purely economic, very neutral, normatively neutral sort of markets that will take care of themselves and whatever their functions are. What we kind of lost in that period, and what we need to rediscover, is that the financial system is not normatively neutral, right? It can be, take one shape or another shape. Which shape we allow it to take is ultimately a choice, and it's ultimately a policy choice. It's not some kind of a natural objective law of physics that this is the kind of trading or this is the kind of market structure that we must have in our financial system, right? And the biggest normative question we need to kind of learn to be asking is this particular financial market or trend or product or, I don't know, development or technology, is this thing actually good for our American economy, for our American democracy, for our values, right? And those are the political decisions. Because we as a society, we change. Maybe our values and our sense of what kind of economy we want, what's important, what's not important, maybe it's not the same today as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But whatever it is, we need to constantly keep asking these questions, because if we don't, then technology will make those choices for us. They will usurp privately that public power and public duty to deliberate on the kind of society we want to have. Because they would tell us, don't you worry your pretty little heads, this is all technical stuff, it's all market, it's just, some kind of a natural, invisible hand will take care of things. So for me, what I meant was normativity, not just technology, has to become part of that conversation, which is scary because this is not, it's not easy, right? You cannot objectively prove that my view of what is good is better than your view of what is good. So this is where we are.
Yeah, I too would like to thank you very much for the clarity and the importance of your work. I'm not an economist, I'm not a legal person, and I've found my own exploration into the money system has been very complicated, but your papers are models of exquisite clarity, and I thank you for them.
Thank you.
But my question is this: you stress macroeconomic stability as the function of regulation, right? And it's needed because the fundamental system is unstable. The reason why the instability is a threat to our economy is that when crashes occur and banks collapse, then people and corporations and don't have access to our money. And that's the crisis, when you don't have access to money. Well, if people had their money not in the kind of accounts that are at risk for that, that is to say, they were in accounts that could not fail. And one of the possibilities is obviously with a central bank. Other possibilities that are analogous have been also offered as institutions holding them in bailment, holding checking accounts in bailment and so on. So it's that separation of the real economy and the money that's required for it from this financial area where speculation can occur. It seems to me central to what you're getting at. And so am I understanding this correct?
You are understanding this correct, but on purpose, given the breadth of the audience, I didn't want to overburden people with some technical kind of details of it. But yes, that's the idea, right? We have the system, that's the public-private partnership. It's a hybrid system. It's historically evolved for a variety of reasons, right? Where the public money is not directly available to all of us in the economy, other than in the form of physical cash. And physical cash is not really very convenient for many, many transactions that we conduct on a daily basis. So what we use in the daily life is basically bank deposit money. That's privately issued money. But to us, there is no difference between bank deposits and the US dollars in our pockets, because we know that we can go to the ATM and withdraw US dollars out of the bank, Citibank or a little tiny bank in Cincinnati, it doesn't matter. What we don't appreciate is that equivalency, that seamless connection between private money that we all use, which is not risk-free. No private money is risk-free, right? Because no private actor in the economy has that complete safety, from failure, for example, right? But to us, that seamlessness is super important, because that's how we transact with one another, and nobody ever asks any questions about the value of the US dollars that we send each other out of the bank accounts, right? It's because there is that institutional structure behind it, the Federal Reserve, central bank, and all that forms of public subsidy that are less visible than FDIC insurance. So I agree completely with you. We've made decisions, or rather, accretively, the system has evolved where we rely on the privately issued money circulating in the economy. And we create, through institutional design and the public subsidy, we create that illusion of seamless equivalency between private money and the public money. But there is no equivalency. And because there is no equivalency, this is why we see bailouts in terms of crisis. This is why we see crisis in the first place. And of course, the theoretically cleanest solution would be to just separate the two. Have the money, if we want public money, sovereign money, the US dollar, this is what I trust in. All of that money in digital form should be truly sovereign public money, not issued by individual banks, but basically issued by the central bank directly. And the rest of the financial activity, investment, lending, all of the stuff that creates risk, moves forward the economy, generates great returns, everything should remain private and should be allowed to be transacted in private markets. But if those actors fail, then there would be no need for the Federal Reserve and the Treasury to jump in and bail them out. Because the reason we have that absolutely inexorable need, and it happens every time, is because the private actors in the private financial markets are actually the sources of what we use as sovereign money. And money of the nation, the money of the nation, is the most important public good. We can never allow the US money and monetary and payment system to fail. And that's why when Citibank or Wells Fargo gets into trouble, the Fed has to jump in. So of course, the cleanest solution would be to separate, but it is incredibly radical. It is politically incredibly controversial. I've been eaten alive for suggesting that as a thought experiment. So what you see in front of you actually is a carcass of me. Everything has been eaten up. But, it is what it is. Anyway, thanks for the question.